Good morning, my friends. It's your old pal PeaceLoveMusic with another episode of the Let's Go Morning Show, coming at you live on DeOrganized Media in partnership with Bitcoin Live Decentralized Broadcasting. It is Friday, the 15th of November. Lots of great stuff happening in our ecosystem. I got Jack waiting in the wings. We're going to run through the news and then bring Jack on for the regular Friday morning conversation. Bringing to you live. Good morning, Squid Finn, my brother. Let's see. We got... this is a friendly reminder. This is a news show. We are providing information and educational purposes only. We are not providing financial advice. Always do your own research and never invest money you cannot afford to lose. Bitcoin, as of about a half an hour ago, was hanging in at 90,371. Stacks dipped down to $1.85, dropping from 35 to 36 by overall market cap on coin market cap. Fear and greed index dipped down to 84, still in that extreme greed range. And the top three gainers are the last 24 hours on coin market cap are Brett, HBAR, and XRP. To the Stacks calendar and the Miss Gecko calendar, because we have two great options for calendars in our ecosystem right now. We have at 11 a.m. today, the last day of DevCon. Go over to, if you're interested in that, devcon.org. Check that out. Last day of DevCon. We have the Good Morning Stack show every day, Monday through Friday. Thank you for tuning in. And at 11 a.m. Eastern time, we have the weekly SIP call, Stacks Improvement Proposal, and Community Innovation Call. Very important, great stuff there. We're starting to make that, we're getting a lot of turnout. We love having the community come out and chat with us about what's going on, get educated on the proposed SIPs, and also help us come up with ideas and give us feedback for what the community is looking for out of the Stacks ecosystem. So tune in at 11 a.m. Eastern time. That's with the Stacks org account, Hero Gamer. Haddy and I will be there, a bunch of our friends. So come on 11 a.m. Eastern time and learn more about what's developing on Stacks. At 2 p.m. is the Trust Machine show, Good for Bitcoin. That's 2 p.m. Eastern time. 3 p.m. is Stacks Africa Friday, update and chill session with Freddie and the crew. 4 to 5 p.m. is the Stacks Nigeria Pushing the Narrative show with Sam and the Stacks Nigeria group. Both great groups in the space. And then we round out the week, great way to round out the week with Dan and Brad at the Purple Pill Friday show. That's at 5 p.m. Great conversations there. Jump in the conversation and ride into the weekend strong. Close the week out. And then on Miss Gecko's calendar for Friday, and we have a very, very busy ecosystem. We have Memes on Stacks at 11 a.m. with O'Milly Tees. The Bus Stop at 3 p.m. with Jay East, Mains, and Miss Gecko. Building the Future at 4 p.m. Creative Owls and Tang Poco. Get to the Comics at 4 p.m. That's on YouTube with Osmond Collects. Artfully Fed at 8 p.m. Eastern time with Chanel, Cali Speedway, and Sapphire. Bar Pushes Radio at 9 p.m. on X with Dr. Strange and Omi Wan, da homie. And Aloha Friday, the Real Uncommon True podcast at 11 p.m. Eastern time on YouTube and X with Dee and Hinano. And that is your events calendar for the day. I want first news item of the day. We have a few news items before I bring Jack in. The first news item of the day is that DeOrganized Media, the Power Awards winners were announced yesterday, and DeOrganized Media won the category for Leader Awards, or the Leader Award, Community Leader Award for the Community Leader category from the StacksLink Proof of Work Retroactive Funding Grant Program that spurred out of the D-Grants process. We are truly honored and privileged to have been considered with all the great programs that were participating in this event. And congratulations to Parrot Radio, Felix on Bitcoin, Vinny's project, Moon Labs with Gizlo's project, and Binta one, and all of the teams that are building projects that were submitted. Lots of great stuff. There were 14 projects submitted, and very bullish on what's being produced in the Stacks ecosystem. And big shout out to all of the DeOrganized media crew and everyone that's supporting us throughout the whole time we've been building this out. The support from the community and the people helping pitch in all along in the background and up front, coming on our shows and doing their own shows and everything. Thank you so much for all of that. That was my favorite news item of the day. This was going to be my favorite news item of the day, which is actually a repeat of my favorite news item of the day yesterday. Tulsi Gabbard is going to be the Director of National Intelligence for the United States. I love that. That's my favorite appointment. Not far behind, I actually love that pharmaceutical stocks fell yesterday after President-elect Trump names RFK Jr. as Secretary of Health and Human Services. This is tremendous. We've got good people with well-intentions that understand what they're up against and don't seem to be for sale being put into positions where they can actually affect and make some differential change, like real difference in what's going on here. So super bullish on these appointments. Some of them are other ones I'm not as keen on, but still think that we're making progress from where we were or where we've been, the direction we've been heading in. $2.8 trillion asset manager Goldman Sachs discloses $710 million Bitcoin ETF holdings. Michael Saylor says replacing SEC Chair Gary Gensler is incredibly bullish for digital assets. A quote, "It's very good for the crypto industry. We're going to see a lot more pro-Bitcoin policies." Amazing. That's awesome. 18 U.S. In related news, 18 U.S. states sue the SEC, alleging unconstitutional overreach and unfair persecution of the crypto industry under Gary Gensler. Yeah, it's been bad. It's been real bad. We've been actually hamstrung and hauled back. That's why things have been exploding since the election, because there's all this pent-up expectations that are now going to be able to be realized. And 84-year-old Nancy Pelosi officially files for re-election in 2026. Somebody propose, please challenge her. She's ancient and needs to go. SIP29 Bitcoin halving alignment proposal is going to live vote as soon as this weekend. I think it's actually going to launch on Sunday. We are optimistic for that. This is an important proposal to ensure that the SBTC launch scheduled for December goes as smoothly as possible. Its intent is to keep miner signer stacking incentives stable while SBTC launch goes live. I fully support this proposal, and I urge you to vote yes. You can join the discussion at the QR code above. That QR code will bring you right to the conversation in the Stacks forum. You can go to forum.stacks.org and participate in all of the conversations about anything that's going on. That is a great place to get involved in the conversation on a regular basis, where you can go back and interact over time, versus just coming into our spaces, which is also a great way to get involved. Bitflow's Pontus Bridge will soon bring runes to Stacks. Follow at Pontus_official to stay up to date on the latest developments with Bitflow's Pontus Bridge. This is going to be huge for runes holders, huge for the Stacks ecosystem, and anyone that's involved in both. How can you not be bullish about that? Great job with Bitflow innovating and bringing this to our ecosystem. Good work. Can't wait for it to launch. Tacoovation Awards are live. Head over to the Stacks link, at Stacks link on X, and nominate someone for a Tacoovation Award today. Anyone that's, even if they've just given you a little bit of, anyone that's working or doing something in the space, it's very important that we take the opportunity to recognize people. It takes a couple minutes, and it's definitely very worth doing. You feel good about it, they feel good about it. What's better than that? Nothing. Not Punks are now available to earn S points on Spaghetti Punk. Head over to spaghettipunk.club to start earning S points today, and you can use those S points on future mints by the Spaghetti Punk Club, and they do lots of collabs, and it's great artwork and good dudes over there. So get out and support. Skullcoin story mode free to play now on skullco.in. That's Skullcoin with a dot between the O and the I in Skullcoin. It's live on Stacks mainnet now. It's super fun to play. Go check them out. Boom, ghostly transactions are a regular. Is that a regular NFT or perhaps an opportunity for future benefits on Boom Wallet? We don't know, but it's minting now on Gamma.io. It's only 7 stacks, and what Dan's building at Boom Wallet is a really awesome project. So you can go get one of those NFTs, and if nothing else, you're helping support the building out of a really important and great project that's going to expand the application of smart contracts to Web3 commerce on Bitcoin and Stacks. Really great stuff. Go over to boom.money and put your email address in right now, and you can actually get notified when they do launch and for updates as well. And also, we would not be doing our job justice if we weren't, or doing our community justice if we did not mention the Zero Authority bounties. Go over to zeroauthority.xyz right now. Set up your account if you don't have one. Look at the available bounties. You can get yourself in line to earn some stacks, Bitcoin Pepe, stacks, even some Mojo. I think 300 just launched one this morning. You got some Rue on there. More to come. So check them out. Zero Authority. Get yourself out there and start participating in the burgeoning Web3 economy that's coming through Zero Authority and on-chain reputation and on-chain gig marketplace. And without further ado, bring in the homie. Jack Binswitch in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, Jack. How are you today?
Good morning, brother. I'm okay. I had a little cold front come in last night. Man, just in those blankets, sleeping like a baby. But you was going through the news, and there was, and then you made me real depressed when you talked about RFK announcement bombing the pharmaceutical stocks. So I really, really wanted to have some puts on the pharmaceutical stocks.
Wow.
There's
probably still time, bro.
And it's like, it made me think about how when you're in crypto, like, and you've seen it this last week or so, as retails really start to come in, and you're like, everything's pumping but what I have, right? It's that feeling. Well, first of all, you can't be everywhere at once, so you always have to remember that this stuff goes in, you have a large cap, mid cap, micro cap, small cap rotation that happens with the liquidity, but like, you can't be everywhere at once. So that's why conviction's so important, but man, that upset me. I really, really just wanted to short the dog shit out of Big Pharma because I knew it was coming. But I also, like, man, I wanted some Pepe. I forgot to buy my Pepe because that was a no-brainer. That was going to go up. It's in the top 20 this week. But guys, you just can't hit them all. That's just a fact. You can't hit them all.
Truth. And if you could hit them all, Jack would hit them all. So I mean, it is what it is. You gotta, and you know what? When you miss out on them, you just gotta cut those off too. I do think that there's probably more time on shorting the pharmaceutical stocks, because I think those guys they're in for a rough 4 years. Although all of these appointments are still just nominations until they get approved. They still got to get them through Congress somehow. Although I heard, well, anyway, I'm not going to speculate further, but I heard that there might be a recess coming in which some of these appointments might get made via executive order, which I don't know. I'd like to see it actually get through Congress personally, just because I'm not a big fan of rule by decree.
Right.
But if that's how it has to be, then that's how it has to be. I want Tulsi Gabbard running the National Intelligence organization.
I think it's beautiful, man. Like, they took her and they had her on watch list, right? I mean, absolutely disgusting. the agencies that she's going to be running, she'll now, they had her on watch list.
A terror watch. She was not allowed to fly.
Yeah.
Her and her husband were getting routinely stopped and detained for like 2 or 3 hours at a time.
Like it's
a former congresswoman, a decorated lieutenant lieutenant colonel in the United States Army, total badass, absolutely 100%, still an Army reservist.
Right.
They're putting her on the terrorist watch list. That's
one of the things that people
would accept. That's why I would accept a potential having to go the route of executive decree and executive order to put her there. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. Like one of the things that we're going to realize, it's going to take a little bit of time, is we were kind of living with a little more tyranny than I think people really understand, because you don't always necessarily understand the reality of a situation until you have direct exposure to it, until you've been directly affected by it. And because that's what that is, that's just some tyrannical government overreach. And I think that we have a really big carrot and stick with the Trump administration at this point because of Elon Musk. Because look, here's the reality of it. What you're seeing with all these appointments, and you're seeing about all of this talk coming from Trump, so every day he's like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. It upsets the entire apple cart in DC, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, because so much of this stuff, look, and like you said, Nancy Pelosi's 84. Dude, first of all, being a politician should never be a career choice. That should be public service. That should be service to your republic, period. And B, honestly, I think the only real government jobs that should be lifetime jobs is like, if you're like working for the post office kind of thing, right? There should be very, very few. There should be so few. The government should be so small that it shouldn't be really a career path for people. It should just be, very limited scope. So no one wants that in DC, but it has to happen. So in this case, the stick being, if you don't really go along with the overwhelming Trump agenda, which it is overwhelming. It's popular vote won, electoral vote won. Elon is going to pay for people to primary you. That's basically the stick. So we'll see how it goes.
And for specific to Nancy Pelosi, and this is obviously a much broader issue than just her, but she's a prime example.
Right.
But I mean, the woman's definitely not using all of her God-given talent. She's amazing at picking stocks.
Dude, yeah, like she smokes everybody in crypto.
She's just, I don't know how she does it. And while she's doing all of this and all of her time that she spends helping run the country, she's quite a lady. It's amazing how well she does picking stocks.
You straight up had Senator Dianne Feinstein. She's passed away. Rest in peace. Like, she died in her Senate seat, and her kids had power of attorney in the end of her life, and she was still, signing bills and passing law. How does that work? Like this,
right? She was literally just being kept alive.
Right. That kind of stuff has to stop. Like it has to stop.
It's just, it's so grotesque.
It really is.
It's just it just speaks to how, some people are in favor of further establishing the government being the authority on truth and what's allowed to be and speech. And yet we have such an obviously dishonest process, in a number of ways. How can you honestly look at all that, then just kind of suspend all kind of cognizance of that reality and say, but hate speech is bad, so we shouldn't let people talk and say mean things, and we should have the government censoring people to make sure no one's feelings get hurt.
Right.
Like, it's so obvious. It's so obvious to me that that's just an excuse to lock down society and rein things in and control ideas and marginalize competition. You know, that's really what a lot of it boils down to, is just marginalizing competition for power and control and or for market access.
You know, it was real simple. To speak to your point, it's come out since COVID that most of those rules that they were like, you have to do this, you stand 6 feet, you do this, you do that. It was just bureaucrats making stuff up, right? And like, so you take like the mask thing, for instance, with COVID. This drove me nuts because I had to be very familiar with PPE in my profession, and it drove me nuts. Like, this idea that this paper mask would, you know, keep you from getting an airborne, you know, illness, right?
It was like, literally worthless.
It's like, look, asshole, why don't you go take a paint gun that they use to paint cars and go work with that in an enclosed space with a paper mask on and see how long before you have a lung full of paint. Like, you don't wear, and you can see paint, right? If I'm loaded down with COVID and I'm coughing all over my screen right now, coughing all over my camera, you're not going to see COVID.
No, like, but if someone's standing near you, they're going to breathe COVID.
Right. If I'm sitting here, you know, hanging drywall, I'm not going to wear a paper mask to do that. But you can see gypsum dust. You can literally see it. You can't see.
You can taste it too.
Virus, right? Like, it's like, it was real stupid stuff like that, and it made me think of it when you see all the pictures of people like wearing masks with holes in them so they could play wind instruments, and it was just so
eating. Right. The kids, like, having kids at a school concert with a mask but a hole in it. It's like, I used to give maybe some people too much credit. You know, I don't even think that it's people are stupid, Jack. I think it's that our society has been trained through the education system and through the media to defer their thinking processes. Like, they're trained to second guess themselves first and defer to the centralized authority on opinion, which, you know, that's how we got here. But it seems like that's kind of waning.
Yeah,
you know, people are waking up.
It couldn't be a moment too soon, because you're right. It's like you outsource your thinking and trust, but at the same time, you have this government that's like, no, we'll be the source of your truth. That just does not work. It doesn't work. It needs to die a horrible death, and it looks like it's happening, because that stuff is just wild, man. It is absolutely wild. Like, if you have, like, tuberculosis is a big deal, by the way. Like, if you had any idea how seriously your state Department of Health takes TB cases, it's one of the most serious public health risks that actually exist, because super virulent, like super and then you get it where it's untreatable
very easily.
There's strains of it that can't be treated. It's kind of like the super gonorrhea that's starting to come around, like that. If you catch it, you're done, right? That's how they have strains of TB like that. So, like, if you have someone in the hospital with TB, the whole process that you go deal with them when you have to go give these people care is very meticulous. It's been in use a long time. The minimum type mask you go in there with is an N95. You know, you can't have any facial hair. You need to have your N95 fitted. You need to know exactly what kind you could fit your face just right. And you go, you dress out, you go in there, you give your care. What you do with that mask, as soon as you finish, you toss it. New mask every time. And then to sit there and go and work in hospitals, as long as I had to work in hospitals, and be like, here's your mask. Make sure you're wearing it as soon as you come in, and leave it on for your entire 12-hour shift, and do this, that. It was nonsense. It was complete nonsense. And that's one aspect.
Personally, like that gives me a headache. That makes me not feel good. Like you're breathing
Well,
your
no,
own
because
exhale.
now you're like bringing extra CO2
Right.
into your body that's not supposed to be there. And like
That's your exhaust. So you're
the
re-breathing in your own exhaust.
yeah, like everything in your body is based on your oxygen and CO2 balance in a very, very profound way, like the way that this works. And but anyway, it's yeah, I'm
They made
glad
all
that's
the kids wear them all day in school, and then told them that there was nothing wrong with it, and it didn't cause any harm, and there was no problem with it. And they had people like anytime my daughter would get a headache from school, like, and she didn't like it, and she didn't. Eventually, she went back to school. She chose to go back to school, even though she had to wear a mask. She was one of the last kids in her class that went back, but I left it up to her because I didn't want to keep her segregated at home because that was also a whole nother damaging thing. Although I will say this, I do think that the only reason we haven't expanded out our educational capacities to incorporate more distance learning opportunities, which would save municipalities a ton of money, is because the unions are fighting tooth and nail against it. And nothing against unions, by the way. I think that that's an important part of the balance of corporate economics. If
right.
business can organize and become a broader entity like that, then so should labor be able to. But you shouldn't take positions that are anti productivity and growth for an industry, because we don't necessarily need as many teachers if we can do more homeschooling, more distance learning.
There's no accountability. When the Department of Education started under Carter, U.S. was number 1 in education in the world, and now we're not even in the top 20. I don't believe, and it's so it's all about bureaucracy and lifelong work for people who don't have to produce. And I'm really excited about the prospect of people who've been working on the government for a long time, just not having to produce anything, have to go back into the private sector to make a living like the rest of us do. And it was nonsense. I'm really happy. I'm happy about the trajectory. I think it's going to be some growth pangs, but I think they'll all be worth it, and homeschooling. We homeschooled our kids.
So blank page is actually Haddy. That's Haddy.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's Haddy's page. I want to actually shout out all the people real quick. Ors Gaming says what's up. GPSC Hero Gamer says hi. Crypt Kitties get in the house. Hero actually says that the cab review was approved last night on SIP 29. So that vote should start this weekend. So everyone, make sure you're getting over to stx.eco, and we'll be shouting that out more throughout the next couple of weeks to make sure people get over there. But that's going. Haddy says, what's up? Gary Reiger, what's up, Gary? We got Blank Page, the Deadwood. GPSC says, good morning, Jack. Hope you're having a blessed day. Praying for you and the fam. And again, shout out to it. What was the cat's name?
It was Allie, man.
Allie.
Yeah.
Shout out to Allie. Travel well, Allie. On to the next to the great yarn ball in the sky.
Yeah, for real, man. Like, I think that one of the things Trump was talking about is like a big tax credit for families that homeschool, right? And dude, like that would be a boon, because then when you add homeschooling and AI to the mix, and you could really just hone into a kid's individual learning needs, like we really have a chance here to just explode, because we homeschooled our kids, and I can tell you for a fact, just in a small focus group of 6 kids, they all had different learning styles. They all learned differently. They all were interested in different things.
Strengths, weaknesses.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then, it just goes back to the way things are We tend to think that's the way they've always been, and we really have to stop that kind of thinking, because it's too easy to get complacent, and we're talking about like lifetimes of complacency at this point. And yeah, man, I don't think that I'm super bullish on what's going on there, and I really hope to see some massive change, because we need it. It needs to be shaken up, and then we need to export it to Europe. If you look at like the EU, even in our less than stellar growth with our economy, like the EU's economy is stagnant. It's all this regulation, all of this.
Right.
This
it's worse there. It's worse there because the bureaucrats there seem to be more tied together than they are even here.
Yeah. So I'm really, really excited. It's so excited for the future. And you're starting to, now we have, you're really starting to see retail come back to crypto in a big way. You're starting to see hey, if I have, if I have Doge, is it going to be worth as much as 90K per Doge one day? You're starting to see those kind of, social media posts and so
I have no Doge. Am I dramatically underexposed? Is that a problem? I really have always been like, nah, it's not going to work. It can't work. And I know Elon's been pushing it. I think it's just a troll. I don't think that Doge is actually going to be anything. But what's your opinion on that?
What's going to happen? I like Doge because it's like the main meme coin, and it kind of like just encapsulates what meme coins are in a profound way. But when you look at the reality of, now you have all of these other big memes that are on Coinbase and like Robinhood stuff, I don't think Doge is going to run like it would have in previous cycles, and you kind of saw that like last cycle with SHIB. You had Doge and SHIB, and well, now you got Pepe and you got this and that and Dog and all of these different things. So I don't know, man. I think that it's probably entrenched in the culture, and I think it's probably good to have some exposure, but I don't know. It just kind of shifts the way people look at crypto. Like, if you look at, again, in the way I think about it, I think about meme coins in terms of community more than anything else. Like, I don't play fantasy football, right? But like, I can look and be like, okay, people really enjoy this stuff, right? They don't own the team. I was talking to Ace about this the other day. They don't own the team. They're never going to meet the players. They're never going to do any of these things, but they like it. They enjoy it. And meme coins are like that. And crypto communities are like that. And I think that, we're at the beginning stages of seeing what that's going to look like in mainstream culture here very shortly. Doge or XRP. I hate Ripple. I hate the company. I hate how they dump on their holders. They've been dumping on them since 2017. Yeah. Like, I'm
going to hold my Bitcoin and not buy Doge probably, but I'm super bullish on everyone that makes money on Doge. I love that. If I had to buy one or the other, it would absolutely be Doge in my opinion. Also, I want to shout out what's up, Nobody Famous. She's in here as CCCINF. That's a new one, or CCC1NF. NF must be for Nobody Famous. I get it. And actually, the Deadwood is asking about crypto projects that are creating online education, and I'm sure there's probably a few. And EasyA app is one that's been doing tremendous as far as onboarding people into blockchain coding languages and then hosting events, getting build-a-thons and getting people building on those projects. That is one that I am aware of that's been crushing it. It's not a blockchain education as far as like grammar school education or high school education, but I don't know that that's necessarily the play there. I think online and open source is the most important thing about education. It doesn't necessarily have to be on chain to be effective.
Right. No, and I'm so bullish seeing all of these young people being interested in building on Bitcoin and stacks and just blockchain in general. But now B, having the opportunity to actually be like, oh, this is a career path. Like I can do this because I don't have some corrupt, bald asshole in DC who is going to, try to ruin my life or ruin the company's life I'm working for. So I'm super bullish about Gary Gensler getting run to shit. I hope that asshole gets sued every day for the rest of his life. Like, this, because all these people really did. This pisses me off real bad. Like all of this FUD for crypto since I've been in it, and so obviously before that, but at least I can say since I've been in it, has served to prevent people from taking part in the greatest financial revolution of a lifetime, and all to protect other interests.
An establishment of control mechanisms.
Damn those people.
Gary Gensler, he had a Bitcoin class, or a class that he had taught that was on YouTube.
Yeah.
So when they announced that he was going to be the SEC chair, I actually thought he was pro crypto and pro Bitcoin. I was super excited. And then that turned out to be, he was obviously bought and paid for.
Right.
He was very tied to FTX. Actually, the whole administration was using FTX. That was a job, guys. That was a job. FTX, you guys maybe don't realize this, but FTX was being used as the U.S. government's way to raise crypto funds for the Ukraine war.
Right.
And then they simultaneously were the number one donor for the DNC that cycle as well. Bullshit.
Right.
Bullshit. And that all just got swept under the rug, right? They just put the kid in jail. Nobody else got touched.
No.
Nobody else got touched. Sam, the bank man, got fried.
People have missed out on so much opportunity. We're sitting here. Your average person is probably 10 years behind, your average like crypto native who is like paying attention on crypto Twitter, at least 10 years behind. And that's just a tragedy, because that's where opportunity's at. The most opportunity is always at the very beginning of something. And the good thing is there's so much opportunity here. There's so much that's
right.
coming.
There's still a lot of time. It is a shame to think what might have been for a lot of people, but there's still tremendous opportunity moving forward, and we have every reason to be very excited about where we're headed. We don't need to look back, but you're absolutely right. They hosed us. They hosed us.
Dude, if you think about it, if you're someone like me who believes that Bitcoin is going to be worth multiple millions of dollars, does it really matter if you get it at 50K or 100K? Not really. But like all of that time, you really could have like positioned yourself and learned.
The difference is if you put the same amount of money in, you're talking about doubling the amount you hold.
Right.
So it's a 2x.
It is, right, but it's just it sucks, and I hate that, and like I really don't like to put evil out in the world, but I really hope Gary Gensler gets sued every day for the rest of his life, and if he broke the law at all, I really hope he goes to jail, because what they did was nothing less than criminal, not just unethical. I mean, you've crippled an entire industry. And now, how you feel about the proposed ideas of like no crypto taxes on, for.
Well, I hear that they're actually Landy said, amongst other people. I've heard that I'm super bullish. So where to start with this conversation? Number one, there's a belief. Probably not within the first 2 years of the administration, but the goal or a goal of the Trump administration is to eliminate the income tax entirely,
Right.
which is long overdue, by the way. It's actually a dysfunctional process of funding the government. It doesn't really fund the government. It funds the private banking institution that's built around the government, and used to control the government to a large degree. And that alone would actually erupt into a golden age of innovation and building in the US, because you now, I mean, it's just so many taxes that go away with the income,
right.
so many things that go away with the elimination of the income tax. But the elimination of, or the eradication of any capital gains taxes on crypto, and the way that they're tying that into companies registering in the US to make the US the crypto capital of the world, which it needs to be. Actually, it actually is good for the whole world, for open and supportive regulatory and governance around around crypto, the development. I mean, that opens up. It's like the internet was. The internet was a massive economic multiplier for our society, and when it was first launched, it really rose it rose the tide for everybody. It became very consolidated because the government is too big and able to be used to monopolize things. That's really the game, right? Big companies buy legislators, buy politicians, and then use that leverage to establish policies that marginalize competition from whatever it is that they're doing, to give them more power and control. So I'm super bullish. I don't believe that. I'm sure deals were made to get here, right?
Yeah.
So some deals will have to. I don't think we're going to get everything we're expecting we might get. The optimism here is huge, because we're out from under this gigantic weight, but the monolith still exists.
I think that you're 100% right, and I think what you're likely to see, like the best I can figure right now, is you're at a big risk of having like your crypto VCs become the ones who like kind of dictate how crypto is going to go, and crypto really has to. Crypto will be magical as long as any anonymous person can get on the internet, bang out some awesome code, and release it to the world, right? That's really what it comes down to. And you always have to worry about anyone getting too much power. Like if I had to worry about anything, it would be, well, JD Vance is kind of like a VC guy. He was supported by VCs, backed by VCs. They're going to be looking for everything to take care of them. But as long as the anonymous, dev can get out there and make something good, we're fine. Otherwise, it'll all get real bland real quick. And, I saw something yesterday or the day before. The average cost per family for just the regulations that come out of DC is like $15,000 a year, right? So, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, let that sink in, because I remember being a young man before, I knew what I know now, and like being like, damn, like, okay, I make, I grew up in a working class place, right? I'm like Kamala Harris. Middle class family. No, I grew up in a working class town, and
you did not fall out of a coconut tree,
right? And so,
maybe a friend, a coconut friend of ours, who just had impeccable timing on his comment.
And I'm sitting there, like, as a young man in my 20s, just busting my ass. I've always just worked hard. And I'm like, okay, I make as much money as my my dad made when I was a kid. But like all of the people in my town, most people had boats. You didn't have to be rich to have a boat. Like every Saturday, you could just go and they would just be at the boat launches, just everyone launching their boats to go fishing all weekend. You could do that, and I'm like, what happened? Like, well, between the taxes and inflation and the regulatory costs, just passed down to families, like it completely decimated people's quality of life and upward mobility. And now we're at a place where it's like that doesn't have to happen. And now if we can finally be like, you talked about the internet, like Paul Krugman, who won like a Nobel Prize in economics, was like, oh, the internet will do as much for the economy as the fax machine. And then obviously, he's always been anti-Bitcoin. And it's like, when do we stop listening to people like this? When do we just, be free of this nonsense? And I think we're here. And I think we're finally here. You have X being like the number one app in the world. You have all of these advertisers.
I don't think this election goes. I think that they would have had the whole thing under lock, and they would have been able to manipulate it however they wanted to manipulate the results.
Yeah,
if it weren't for X being open.
100%. No, that's exactly right. And it's just all of that stuff needs to die. And I think it finally is. And I think information needs to just be as fast and as unleashed as possible. And we have to stop outsourcing our thinking to the experts like Paul Krugman, who, again, said the internet will be as much of an economic boom as the fax machine. Really? Like, you asshole. Like, where's my Nobel Prize? Like, where's my Nobel Prize for my crypto, man? Come on. Like,
it's nuts. Like, it's nuts that this kind of fixed system is able to prevail amidst the idea that we have a free and open society. Like that's why they hate our generation so much, Jack, because we grew up with that being the reality to a large degree. Our society was open. It was free. It was less regulated. It was less dominated. It was less punitive. We didn't have this massive police state where we incarcerate. We don't talk about this a lot in this sphere, but the amount of people that we incarcerate as a country is absolutely disgusting. Like, we put people in jail for bullshit. And that's also an industry. They're putting people in jail to extract labor from them, not to actually protect society.
Oh yeah,
it actually hurts our society very much.
Private prisons are a big business, and then like we don't do prison right. Like, if you've got violent people, you've got dangerous people, you need to do something. You need to do something with them. I mean, there are facts.
Right.
Like we don't even do that part right. Like, you have people who, if their life goes a certain way, if they've got certain kind of damage to their psyche, where at some point when you've gone to prison and spent so much time in jail, you just become institutionalized. Like, going to jail is not even a big deal. It's not even that much of a deterrent.
Right, because you're already hopeless.
Right. And
people don't realize this, but a lot of times when guys get sent to jail, most places, they're racking up a bill for their food, for their shelter. Like, it's not free. It's not free meals and free. Like, people have this misconception that guys in jail are cared for, which, yes, there is healthcare and stuff in jail, but they're racking up a bill
Right.
while they're there. And oh yeah, they can work to earn to pay that off, but they're also at like, waitress rates. They're earning a couple dollars an hour kind of bullshit, doing heavy labor a lot of the time. And then they come out and not only it's a lot harder for them to find a job. They have this massive debt from the time that they were there that doesn't go away.
No, if they don't, we need to see like honest to God massive changes, and the sooner the better. And I think we're there. And that Mike Tyson Jake Paul stuff. Look,
that was one of my favorite things this morning to see.
I grew up watching Mike Tyson box. Like
greatest fighter ever, hands down.
Like I just absolute, like, as a little kid, that was what, like, me and my dad's thing. We'd watch like Tuesday night fights on ESPN. We'd always watch the fights, and Mike Tyson was just a hero. To see that man in his prime, my heart wants to see Mike Tyson, smoke Jake Paul so bad. You've got the age thing, and then you've got is this
I'm prepared to see whatever.
Not fixed,
Yeah, I'm prepared to see whatever. I mean, Mike Tyson's a good deal older than us, so he's right. This is, everyone wants to see. So I already got to see Jake Paul get slapped in the face by Mike Tyson. So I'm satisfied however it goes. But I really want to see Tyson mop the floor with him.
That hand speed, like Jake Paul was already slapped before anyone knew he got slapped.
Right.
Like it was.
He could have hit him 3 times. He
could
have hit him 3 times.
Yeah.
But he probably wasn't really ready for it either.
Right. No. So like I don't know, man. I'll watch it, but like in my head, I'm like, man, this is an old man trying to fight a young man. But I also remember the Foreman, like the Foreman comeback. Of course, he started at like 40, 41, something like that. But that was cool too, because I was too young to have like known George Foreman's like career when he was, like just a young killer like he was.
Right.
And I remember my dad being like, ain't nobody hits harder than George Foreman. And like that was a great thing too, watching George Foreman.
He fought Ali, right?
Yeah. That's what, like, that's a really interesting story, by the way. Like George Foreman's an actual hero of mine, and in like a pretty profound way, because like he grew up hard. He grew up real hard. He was a very angry man, and he had a talent for boxing, and he was just smoking people. Like he was just smoking people. And so him and Ali had this big fight in Africa, right? And so Ali had no choice. Like he had no chance. Like no one was thinking Ali was going to be able to deal with Foreman's power. So that's that famous fight with the rope-a-dope where Ali just let him wear himself out, and then he knocked him out. Well, it like set George Foreman down into a spiral, which ultimately literally led to his salvation. And then like George Foreman became such a like servant to people that he actually became broke, because like in his town he developed like this big boys club for kids who were disadvantaged like he was, right? So like, and he became a pastor, and like he was putting all of his money into like trying to support the people in his community. He became broke. And it's like, well, what to do now? He's like 40 years old. He's like, got to start fighting again. And everyone was just like, no way George Foreman can do this. No way George Foreman can do this. No one's gonna. And he just starts knocking people out, just knocking them out. Becomes the heavyweight champion of the world at like 42, 43 years of age. And then he wound up getting a deal with those George Foreman grills, right? Do you remember those?
I had one. They were actually really great.
They're awesome.
I haven't. We don't do much. That was back in my old days with my ex, and we had little kids. But that was a really great, a great tool for us. We had our oven we were renting, and our oven had shit the bed, and we were able to just use that to make all our meat anyway.
Yeah.
It was a great product actually, and he named all his kids George, which is a little goofy.
And then he made so much money from the Foreman grills. He made more than he ever did boxing. So it's like this huge inspirational story, and like I truly like a hero of mine. Like on a very profound level. Like I looked up to Mike Tyson because I looked up to Mike Tyson in the same way I looked up to like Joe Montana and Jerry Rice, right? Like. But and I happen to like boxing a lot. That's my boxing, and now MMA. Those are the sports that I really enjoy. But like George Foreman's story is powerful, dude. Like just truly like a modern day legend. But yeah, if you ever get to see some of his footage.
Oh yeah, I've definitely seen some of his stuff, and I love hearing him talk too. I like the way he talks. He always has interesting stuff to say when they give him a mic.
Yeah.
Too. But as far as Mike Tyson goes, and I'd forgotten about this, but don't forget about the Mike Tyson Mysteries. I don't know if you've ever caught that show, the cartoon Mike Tyson Mysteries.
No.
Oh my God, it's like Cartoon Network. I don't even know if they still have their Adult Swim, but it used to be an Adult Swim show.
Adult Swim.
So it's a little irreverent, but hilarious stuff on the Mike Tyson Mysteries, man. It's fun. I gotta go watch it later.
Yeah,
before the fight, hopefully.
I hope I really do. I hope to my heart that Tyson wins, and it's nothing against Jake Paul or anything. It's just my bias for like. That's just like I said, just like a childhood hero, man. Like when I was 10 years old, 9 or 10, when Mike Tyson lost his first fight to Buster Douglas, and I remember that fight so clearly because me and my dad sitting there where the fight's coming out, and Mike Tyson gets in the ring, and I'm like, Dad, he doesn't look like as in shape as he normally is, and he gets knocked out. Dude, I cried when Mike Tyson lost to Buster Douglas. Like it broke my heart. But like I really, really hope, I don't know. If it's not fixed, first round, Mike Tyson could absolutely, knock his head off. The power's the last thing to go, right? Mike Tyson's got that old man strength. He's got that.
Right. Well, and he's in shape. He's in shape.
Yeah.
He's not slouching. He is old. He's old. I mean, he's old. But Jake Paul should, by all rights, Jake Paul should kick his ass. He really should. But who knows? And shout out to Manny Pacquiao, GPSC. I like Manny. Manny was a great fighter. He's still fighting. I know he did one probably like 3 or 4 years ago. They did a fight. I think that was the last time Manny fought. I'm not sure. But shout out to Manny Pacquiao too. Great fighter.
Oh, 100%, dude. 100%. Pacquiao, absolute beast. And I agree. Like, I think that, especially for GPSC, being in that age group, I could see how you'd lean especially more towards, Pacquiao.
Well, he's also GPSC is part Filipino.
Right.
Like Manny's like the Filipino. We have a decent sized Filipino community here. I have some friends that are huge Pacquiao fans because he represents.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. No, and those guys, dude, like don't sleep on the Filipino, man. I've met some tough Filipino men. You're like, I'm a big guy. I've always been. And like you see someone who weighs, half as much as you, and you're like, doing some manual labor, and like, some bitch, that's too strong. Like how do those muscles work? Like,
some people have blessed genetics.
Right.
Peoples, I should say. have blessed genetics where it's a lot denser. They get their muscle density is much better, so they don't necessarily look as powerful as they are.
Yeah. No, I remember one of my first jobs out of high school. I did residential tree work, right? And I was a gym guy. I was like 10 egg whites in the morning, chicken breast all day, work all day, go to the gym for an hour when I'm done, just massively, massively strong. And there was this older man worked on a crew with me, Julio. He was in his 40s, family man.
Oh,
and
really?
Messing right. Well, when you're 18, yeah. And so, you're messing with like these big giant pieces of trees that you're basically, removing and have to do stuff with. And you see this man who's about 5'5" and just looks like he just drinks beer all day, just manhandling, this stuff. And you're like, wow, okay. So that's a big I don't know. It was a big education on on physiology, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, genetics too, right? It is not all about. Well, even there's different ways to work out too. Sometimes you're building. Mass doesn't mean power necessarily, right? So if you're
right, no,
if you're doing like heavy sets with short number of reps, you're going to build more mass, but it's not going to be as strong versus if you did lower weight, multiple reps, like much more reps, you're building denser muscle. So denser meaning it's more compact. So you're not you're not as showy, but you don't have to be, because push comes to shove, you're going to shove harder.
Yeah, like GPSC saying about like during World War II, dude, like those Filipino fighters were ferocious. Like they were absolutely brave men. You had Japan invade the Philippines, and there's some like really cool history, and war stories from that part of the war. Like you talk about some absolute beast. That was one of the coolest things about my profession is I got to like take care of a lot of like World War II vets, And
they saved us from fascism the first time.
Yeah, 100%. And now it looks like Gen X finally like saved us this go around. And I'm always ready for the next shoe to drop. I'm never complacent that we finally made it, but I do feel like we're headed in a much better direction, and thanks to our group, Gen X will save the world. We are. We're here. Our attitude is what it is. Go ahead and fuck with us if you dare. Right. No, like Gen X, I like to think that Satoshi Nakamoto was more than likely Gen X,
Very likely.
We'll probably not know for sure, but I think that's a pretty safe bet. But, it was weird growing up the way we did, because again, when I entered the workforce, boomers were still, young. And so like everywhere you go, any company or any endeavor you work for, like there was very little room to like conventionally just move up the ladder, because you just, and you got people like Nancy Pelosi, who are 84 years old, still trying to run for office, right? Like it was that dynamic at scale for our generation, like whether it's media, entertainment, any industry, it was just dominated by boomers for so long. And now, now we're finally breaking free of that. Thank God.
Yeah, I think we still have a long way to go, but it's up. We're finally heading in a positive direction, and I think that people have smartened up about where we were.
Yeah, man.
Some. We still have some conversations to have. We still have some common ground to discover, to work off of.
That's why I'm so bullish on DeOrganized media, man. Like, not only can we, because again, like getting back to seeing new money and new people come into crypto, and you're like, okay, you can have, you know, a good source of information to try to help people learn things, help people stay informed. But also now that the mainstream media and mainstream entertainment, they're in a lot of trouble. You know, it's such a bullish time for independent media like this. And I think that, you know, being on X is being in the right place. And you know, we're talking about some things behind the scenes. Like, we got some pretty cool plans coming up. We got some cool stuff.
Yeah, we got some great stuff. Gary's suggestion yesterday, which was something that we had actually talked about after the election too. That seems like a no-brainer, and I'm super excited about that. Kitty's got her show coming. I don't know if I mentioned to you, Zenitron's going to be doing a GameFi show with us.
Cool.
So that's going to be cool. We got, you know, stuff like, and just so many cool things coming in our ecosystem, man. Like Bitflow with the Pontus bridge. What are you hearing about that? I know you're kind of in the know. Are they still up in the air yet?
We're still doing test transactions on our end, on the Runes end. You know, it's close. Like, it's been slightly delayed. You know, when we timed the Runes launch initially to try to time up with their initial release date, and then at the very last minute, it was like, look, we got to hold off. Nakamoto's got a couple wrinkles in it that we got to account for here, and so it's just been a day by day thing. But it seems like it's really soon. You know, we've been able to send some runes back and forth and so forth. It's just, without getting like in the weeds, you know, this bridge is kind of like a miniature blockchain. It's really, really, you know, technically impressive. And so,
bridges kind of have to be secure. You know, it's a big undertaking what they're doing. Like, people don't really realize. Like, yeah, and that's okay. The end users really aren't supposed to have to realize just how much it takes, right? That if it's a good project and it's done right, eventually people won't know. But I know, because I know other people that have worked on other projects where they were talking about building a bridge for this and a bridge for that, and it doesn't happen. You know, It doesn't actually happen. It's very hard to do. So just the idea that they're testing it and they're seeing it come to fruition is super bullish. I can't wait to get my runes allotment dropped on me. I'm super excited about that.
You know, dude, like, the way I look at it is, okay, so yesterday you had Dog get listed on Kraken, right? So
I forgot to put that in the news.
Oh, well, you see, that's why I'm here. You know, I'll be your counter on, man.
It's an extra. But wait, there's more. That's what my wife used to say when every so often she'd come up with a new dish, or she'd come up with a new skill that she hadn't dropped on me yet. But wait, there's more.
But that's shining a spotlight on runes. And like, so now when you have this bridge, because again, okay, so like Leo released runes a few days ago.
Right.
And I missed the mint because I was bringing my daughter to school.
I missed it, and I missed it because I was doing the morning show. I saw it in that group. I saw it in that alpha group, which isn't really an alpha group. It's just a community chat forum on DMs, but it's an alpha group because it's all the alphas in the ecosystem.
It just collates, right? Yeah. And like, so I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, I got to get this stuff on a dip. So, you know, I wait. Next day, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get my Leo runes. Dude, it took like 3 hours for all my transactions to go through and everything. I think I paid like $30 in fees, and it's like, you're sitting there being like, okay, this is why, and this is what I was telling people, you know, when we were talking about what we're doing with runes. I'm like, to unlock runes is the true potential for Bitcoin meme coins. You have to give it a better user experience. You cannot degen, you cannot do stuff if you're waiting hours for a transaction, paying that much in fees. And so now we'll be able to take these runes, bring them across the bridge, and utilize smart contracts to make a familiar, good DeFi / trading experience. So when you take like the dog news, when you see what's going to happen for Stacks, I think this is going to be massively big for Stacks, because in my mind, you're going to start seeing more runes get listed on exchanges, and then people are going to learn about it. Be like, where do I get more runes? Where's the alpha on runes? Where's the runes that haven't hit, hundreds of millions of dollars in market cap yet? They're going to go to places like Bitflow and Velar and Stacks and like,
right. And then, I can engage in liquidity pools and yield farming with runes.
Huge unlock for Stacks. I think that that's going to onboard so many people with Stacks just in and of itself that we can't fully appreciate it yet, because again, it makes perfect sense. Most people, especially if you've been here a while, the reason they got into alts in the first place is to try to get more Bitcoin. Well, what's better than just having a native Bitcoin pair, period. So that works, and then that brings you right into SBTC, where you're going to have you're going to have tokens with a SBTC pair. And so I'm very excited. And to get back to that earlier point of like, if you're here, you're paying attention, and you're seeing like the Coinbase stuff move and everything, obviously that's going to move. People are just getting exposed to crypto. They have everything in the world to learn. They're going to go to Robinhood. They're going to go to Coinbase. They're going to go to places like this. And that's where things are going to pop off first, because they see $93,000 Bitcoin, and they see, Pepe for, well, I don't even know what it's worth, but it's not,
I don't know it off the top of my head. I know it's higher than it was a week ago.
But it looks cheap,
Right. It looks cheap, and it's kind of funny and fun.
Yeah.
Too. So yeah. But you know what? There's Pepe on Ethereum, or there's Bitcoin Pepe on Stacks, which is a low cap, which our good friend Nobody Famous is representing right now.
I'll put that tweet out, I think this week. Like, Bitcoin Pepe is going to hurt a lot of feelings. It's a super obvious trade. I know I'm supposed to say not financial advice. Take that. That's my disclaimer.
I already said it at the top of the show, so you can. And you're just a guest. You're a guest, so it's a
super obvious trade, man. Like, just it's going to hurt feelings. It truly is, because again, like, if you look at what Muneeb's his thesis for Stacks is basically, Bitcoin has the most liquidity, the most security, and now you want to unlock that liquidity, and you want to inherit that security. And that's really what we have here. So even Stacks itself has lower market caps than some of these meme coins. But I think in the top 50, I was looking the other day, like in the top 50, you had like 7 meme coins in the top 50, right?
That many now?
Yeah.
Wow.
And yeah, so I mean,
that's interesting.
Yeah, so it's going to be very interesting. This is a very, just so if you're here and you're watching things and you're like, damn, don't get the FOMO. Don't, because so many people are going to do this, and they're going to be real sad. They're going to sell their bags, and they're going to chase a pump. They're going to wind up, not going nearly as high on that pump in most cases as they hope they would. And then if they make any profit at all, and they go back to their bags that they had conviction in and had good reasons for buying these bags in the first place, they're either going to get less for their money, or now that pump has started, and that's the cycle. And I'm very familiar with this cycle, because I've lived through this cycle myself. I've done all of these things myself. It's a part of your crypto education, right? So if you've got conviction, that's what matters at the end of the day. You're either right or you're wrong. But chasing pumps is a dangerous game, because I'm telling you now, the most pain you'll ever experience in this market is when you lose your stack or you're working with way less of a stack than you had, and you're watching everything else, all of your, especially your old stuff, just pump like crazy.
Stuff you had and you lost conviction. Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
That really sucks.
Yeah.
I've only had that happen a couple times, partly because I have a hard time. My biggest problem is I don't take profits. I just hold everything forever. But I need to stop doing that, because there really is, it really is. Well, maybe one of the factors I've always been lined up against is if I sell it now and I have capital gains, even though it's short-term capital gains, I'm going to try. So I'm going to sell it now at a high, but I still want to have some of this. So I'm going to have to take the gains out. So I can't buy back as much necessarily. And what if it doesn't go down? And then I had the gains and I had to pay taxes on it. But if we can get rid of that part of it, if we don't have to worry about capital gains taxes on crypto, that would be a whole nother factor. You're going to see a lot more. You'll see a lot more selling. You'll see a lot more selling.
And just the economic boom, just in and of itself, if you take all of these taxes that get wasted by the federal government, just completely wasted. There was a post that Elon Musk posted yesterday. It was like, just here's what $900 billion of your tax money went to last year. Just $900 billion worth. And it's the most asinine things, most wasteful things. And so, like, if people can keep their money and like actually stimulate the economy, that is going to, like, this is how we break out of this miasma that we've been stuck in for so long. And I agree.
People
like
can save now because of crypto. People can save. We had decades of where savings meant nothing. You couldn't save money. You lost. Savings was a losing bet.
100%.
For decades.
100%.
Now we can save. And
why do people think that houses went from being shelter to being investments? I was having this discussion with my oldest boy the other day.
The house you live in is not an investment.
No, a house is a massive expense, you know? And it's just like, okay, he's like, how did the houses, like, how did we get in a situation basically with the housing market? I'm like, let's say you had $1 million and like you're on paper losing $30,000 a year right off the bat to inflation. You're smart. You got $1 million. So what are you going to do with it? You're seeing like asset classes pop up here and there and going up and doing better. So that's where you're going to put your money. And that's not how people lived.
There's that, but there's also, the fuckery they did in 2008.
Yeah, man.
We lost nearly a decade of housing starts nationwide, and I mean probably on a global scale as well. Really from 2008 until the housing market prices in the U.S. at least. I got my license in 2010, my real estate license. I had to learn how to price houses in a declining market. It didn't bottom, and it didn't bottom until like 2013. And then things started to kind of reshift back up, going up until in 2014. But we didn't have a reaction of building more housing yet, because really that didn't come. We're not keeping up pace now with what we need to replace and build housing. So that's actually a huge factor too. On top of interest rates were basically, when we were down around 2%, BlackRock and Vanguard and State Street, they were borrowing money at literally zero.
Right. So
they were able to manifest free money and buy up as many assets as they can. Because of course, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you if you had access to free money? You could you can just accumulate assets that are going to appreciate in value, and you're paying no interest on it. So it's a no-brainer bet. So there's a number of factors as to why we are in a very precarious situation, real estate wise, housing wise, both rental and for home ownership. It's not good nationwide. We need more housing. We need it yesterday. And, a lot of state legislatures are putting in rules that are actually making it more costly for mom and pop investors to own real estate as an investment, like owning multifamily properties and renting them out, because they want to actually make it more costly to do so that they can, in my opinion, no one's told me this, but it seems like their motivation is to make it easier for the large asset management companies that are focusing in on that niche to own real estate, that they have less competition because they can afford to absorb the costs where your small mom and pop companies can't, businesses can't.
That's the cycle.
List off a bunch of stuff, but it's irrelevant. It's just a really bad situation.
No, and that's the whole thing. You saw it with healthcare. You that's why now people don't pay attention to healthcare until they get sick. But like, you have massive companies that own most of your healthcare services in this country, and it's for the same dynamic. It's for the reason that independent, hospitals or what have you have to compete with giant companies that have the resources to absorb all these extra costs that have been dictated by the Department of Health and Human Services. And so what do you do?
Actually probably worse than the real estate industry.
You sell your hospital to the big hospital, to the big company that owns all other hospitals in the area. So then you just have states where you have 2 or 3 giant companies that basically own all of your healthcare services.
And eventually they merge. Right.
But now, why the hell would anyone want to own a house except to live in when you can actually have good money, when you can have hard money in the first place, when you can have Bitcoin? Why have the headache? Why have the issues? And houses can hopefully just go back to being places where people live, and we will not
going to have an investment class in real estate because it's the oldest one, actually. It's even older than gold. At first it was, lords would get titles to land as rewards for serving the crown or whatever. But you're always going to have people that want to own real estate because there's a lot you can do with it. It's not even for housing. There's a lot of, industry needs real estate, and commerce needs real estate. Retail needs real estate. So there's a lot of even infrastructure. Infrastructure needs real estate. You can't build a road if you don't have real estate to build it on. So you're always going to have demand for it, and it's a limited supply item.
Right. Yeah, they're not making any more land.
I'm not buying houses. I'm buying Bitcoin.
Right.
I'm a real
100%. And that's just it. And so that's going to be good. I'm glad that everything that I do, I look through the lens of what can I do to give my kids a better existence than I had. And that's been a massive motivating factor for me in this space. It was a massive motivating factor for me when I started my business. It was a massive motivating factor for when I've spent basically my whole adult life working 2 jobs. This is why we do these things, and it feels very good to finally see okay, here's your chance. It finally looks like we can course correct here. So again, just getting right back to it, super bullish on where we're at and hopefully where we're going. But again, it's hard that you're waiting for the shoe to drop, right?
Right. We got to be. You know what? I like to use the word cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
Cautiously optimistic, or the phrase cautiously optimistic. And actually, that was given to me by a gentleman who was an attorney at the time, friend of our family. He's now a magistrate for the state that I live in. And he was actually just assisting me. I'd been let go by my former company, and they were fighting my ability to collect for unemployment. And he came to the hearing with me, and the company didn't show up. They were the company was actually at the same time taking money from the state to hire people off of the unemployment rolls, and then firing people and routinely denying, fighting their right to collect, because if they were if they were just kind of cycling through, they wouldn't be on the. This was in 2010, so the financial crisis was going on, and after the hearing, he suggested we should be cautiously optimistic. And my life turned around actually very much after that. It had been like 6 months since I got let go. So I got 6 months of back unemployment. I was enrolled in my real estate course. I shortly thereafter met my now wife. My ex had just left me, so I lost my job. My ex had just left me, and he told me to be cautiously optimistic. And being cautiously optimistic led to I've been doing pretty well since 2010, if I do say so myself, and I'm very optimistic, cautiously so, about where we're headed right now in our space.
Yeah, no, me too, man, 100%. Yeah, the WEF, and we got ladies here. I won't say what I'd like to say, but WEF. That's it. Bitcoin is real.
Like WTF.
Right. Bitcoin is real ownership. If you really think about it, you can own two things in the world. You can own your education. Nobody can take that from you. No one can take what you know. Right. And you can own Bitcoin. That's it. I was talking to Ian the other night about this artist who created a bunch of counterfeit art of these other artists, and even these counterfeits were better than the originals and everything. And I was like, dude, can you imagine if, like, when this guy was doing that, if NFTs were a thing, like how now that you can't counterfeit that art. That art is
right. It's traceable.
So we are literally in the industry that we're in the ownership industry. And if you really want to get back to it, the people who are very smart, who were kind of like running the show for their benefit, they know that. And I think that's why there was so much FUD and so much let's keep people out of Bitcoin, out of crypto. Because if we can sit here and understand that Bitcoin and crypto represents the opportunity for true ownership, then they do as well. So, those ass clowns at the WEF, they can go suck eggs, because
here's the thing, that's who was defeated in this election.
100%.
Those guys are who have been propping up the corporate establishment in the United States and globally. And right. I've said it many times that this election was really between a globalist entity, which has been in control of the United States for a long time, and a more nationalist looking entity, which it's a national government, so that is actually their role. Not right. saying I want them to be fascist nationalists, but they should have an eye towards doing what's in the interest of the nation,
right,
beyond what is in the interest of the globe, because
right.
that's their role. There are entities that should have a globalist view, and personally think so. My personal philosophy is I often describe myself as being Painesian in my philosophy. Thomas Paine, and his quote, one of his many famous quotes is, "The world is my country. All mankind are my brethren, and to do good is my religion." That's how I look at it on a global scale. I really do feel that way. But these globalists are not they're not on that wavelength. They want to dominate and control. We're not their brethren. We're their cattle. And
right.
and to do good is not their religion. It's not.
No. And again, nature abhors a vacuum. So even if you're like, hey, these are magnanimous, perfect people, which there's no perfectly magnanimous person. There's no such thing as a perfect person, who are going to like socially engineer everyone's life in the world. All that really happens is somewhere a competing, stronger ideology rises up, and you've just opened the door for it to become the dominant way of doing things. And what if that ideology is anti-human in its own way? And what if it's anti-human and brutal? What if it is anti-human? And this is just the reality of the world we live in. And what makes America great is that this is supposed to be a beacon for human flourishing. This is supposed to be a beacon for liberty. And somewhere along the lines, we were made to forget that, because human liberty is a rare concept, and it's the way that this country has existed is not the normal. It's anomalous. It's very anomalous. Tyranny is pretty much the order of the day. Brutality is pretty much the order of the day throughout human history. And that's what we have. We actually have this very precious thing that should be nurtured and allowed to flourish. And you cannot do that if you have unaccountable, unelected people making decisions on behalf of, basically the richest people on earth, right? Like it can't happen. And so it's a good way to be cautiously optimistic right now, because I think that we're in a position where we can remember that and we can build on it, and we can keep going with this grand human experiment. And obviously it's not going to be perfect, because again, people aren't perfect, but it doesn't mean it can't be good, and it doesn't mean it can't be great.
Absolutely. Right on, brother. I think that's an excellent note to end off on. What else you got? Anything cool happening today?
Just going to be back and forth with the BitFlow and Pontus guys, and trying to find out when we're going to be able to finally make this thing live. Probably be doing some shit posting on Twitter.
Counting.
And then a little bit of, you gotta do the shit posting, freedom of speech. And yeah, just nothing too big. Watching the market, see how everything's going. This is the fun time.
It is. It's a great time to be here, man. And thank you. Always a pleasure hanging out with you, my bro.
Same.
Absolutely love it. Bullish on runes and Rue and the Rue community and all the stuff you and Ian are building out, and all the other stuff you're connected to. You're speaking heroes language with some shit posting talk. Also want to remind everybody, coming up, it's just a little bit after 10 now on the hour. We will have the SIP call on X. Join us to chat about and hear more about what's going on with the development on Stacks, and also give us your input as to what you would like to see being developed on Stacks. We'll see you at 11 a.m. Follow us on DeOrganized every morning, Monday through Friday, right around 8:30. We've been launching. Keep coming out. Keep enjoying the show. Let us know what you like. We got lots of more stuff coming at you. And Jack, thank you, man. You have a great weekend. I'm sure I'll talk to you again soon and often. Peace out.
Take it easy, guys.
Love you all. It is Friday. We are ending the week strong. And don't forget to, after you finish working the day hard, putting all that work in, take some time off over the weekend and recharge. It's very important. I love y'all. Y'all have a blessed day. Peace out.